Welcome to the UP Notable Books Club, brought to you by the Upper Peninsula Publisher and Authors Association. Joan H. Young has enjoyed the outdoors her entire life. Highlights of her outdoor adventures include Girl Scouting, which provided yearly training and camp skills, the opportunity to engage in a 10-day canoe trip, and numerous short backpacking excursions. She was selected to attend the 1965 Senior Scout Roundup in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, an international event to which 10,000 girls were invited. She rode a bicycle from the Pacific to the Atlantic Ocean in 1986. She writes an award-winning outdoor column for the Ludington Daily News and Mason County Press. For the past 12 years, she has also written fiction, including short stories, mysteries, and mysteries for children.
My name is Evelyn Gathu, and I will be hosting today. And I like to always pass off our meetings before we talk to Joan about her book. I like to pass them off to Victor Volkman. For those of you who don't know, Victor, is the president of UPPAA, the Upper Peninsula Publishers and Authors Association. And they, along with the Friends of the Crystal Falls Library, sponsor these book talks. The authors get a little check. It's not tons of money, but they do get a little check for their time. And we're so thankful that they come and talk to us. So before I have anything else to say, I'll pass it off to Victor with UPPAA News. Go ahead, Victor.
Thank you, Evelyn. I am really excited to announce that we are now taking stories, poems, whatever you have for the UP Reader, Volume 10, which will be our 10th edition coming up. Here we have Volume 9 with the moose on the cover, which just came out. Whoops, that's not the moose. There's the moose. The moose just came out in April 2025. And to submit your work, you just have to be a member of UPPAA, which you can sign up at UPPAA.org and just click on Join or Renew. And you can become a member and get all of the wonderful benefits, including the spring conference admission on May 16th, 2026. In Marquette, Michigan, at the Peter White Public Library for absolutely free. Yes, the conference price is included in your year membership, along with the ability to submit work to UP Reader, and it supports all of our other programs like the Young Writers Storytelling Workshop. This fall, we have a picnic coming up in lovely Crystal Falls on September 6th, is that? This Saturday after Labor Day, that any members are welcome to come, and we're going to have a book swap, and we'll have an open mic afternoon, not night, because it's a picnic, and it'll be a lot of fun for everyone. So I encourage you, even if you haven't written anything, you're just thinking about writing, you're welcome to join our organization. Just head over to UPPAA.org and sign up. Thank you, Evelyn.
Okay. All right. Well, before we get into Joan's book, I just want to invite all of you to come back next month. Next month, we will be speaking with Joseph Haywood about his book, Limpy's Adult Lexicon. This is a very popular book at our library. It goes out all the time. I haven't read it yet, but it should be easy for you guys to find and purchase if you'd like to read it ahead of time before our chat. And always we meet the second Thursday of the month at 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. So next month, Joseph Haywood, Limpy's Adult Lexicon. And for tonight, Joan, can you hold up your copy of the book? So a little disclosure, some of you may have heard this because you got on a little early. Oh, thank you, William. I did not get a chance to read this book, and I always do. I always read the author's books, but this book has been checked out of our library on interlibrary loan. I tried to interlibrary loan a copy. Mine hasn't come in, so I haven't read a page. But Victor has. He's going to be able to kind of help with the discussion. I'm just along for the ride tonight. So I already sent my apologies to Joan, but she will be talking to you all about her book, which is, hold it up again, Guide the North
All together now.
Yeah, let's see. How to Hike the North Country Trail. Not quite a guide. So take it away, Joan. And I should tell everybody, she was going to speak a little bit about the book and then later open it up for questions and answers. So thank you, Joan.
Okay, hello. I see several people joining us that I know, including a couple of my favorites, and Bill and Bob, and I see Roxana. I'm not sure who else I know, but it's nice to see some friends come on. Okay, so this book is, let me see what the right answer is. It is a daunting 445 pages long, but nobody is going to sit down and read it cover to cover. It is primarily a reference book, but the first 100 pages are quite readable. And I hope that most anybody who is interested in the North Country Trail and planning a long hike, even if they're not going to do it all in one shot, is planning to hike a considerable distance on the North Country Trail, would find it helpful. And the way this book started, some of you know that I have hiked the entire 4,800-mile trail twice. And most recently, I started in December of 2021 and finished in June of 2023. So it took me about 18 months from beginning to end. I did take 3 months off because I ran into snow in the Upper Peninsula that was just slowing me down to a ridiculous low number of miles. So, so I took a break. But I've seen the entire trail recently. There are, if our count is accurate, it's roughly accurate. There are 29 people who have hiked the entire trail. And this is not meant to be derogatory in any way because different people have different motives for hiking the trail. But as far as I can count, of all of those 29 people, there are only 7 who have remained interested in the North Country Trail enough to be involved at some level, whether as a volunteer or promoting the trail, or one of them actually became a staff member with the Park Service for a while. So of those potential people who have seen the whole trail, there's not a huge number who have gotten involved and are sharing the information that they may have gleaned. So that's a lead into the origins of this book, which was at the annual celebration for the trail, which is held in a different state each year. It rotates through the now 8 states that the trail goes through. And in Minnesota, in the fall of 2022, Matt Robotham, who is the GIS specialist for the trail, which basically means he does the maps. And when I say for the trail, he actually works for the North Country Trail Association, approached me and said, well, why don't you write a little book that would help people understand why the rules aren't the same all along this trail, and just giving an overview of the trail, because we're getting all of these questions. People don't understand how the trail is set up and why they can't just go out and hike. And I said, no. I wasn't even really interested in doing that, and I'm not sure why. So I thought about it overnight, and the very next day, I was at the conference during the hike. I took the 3 days off from my hike to go to the conference because I don't miss conferences, trail conferences. And so the next day I said, well, that may be a good idea. So I started writing it and realized that, yeah, I could probably cover everything that we wanted to say about that in about 100 pages. But then I also realized that even if it was not a very expensive book at that, it probably didn't have the kind of value that would make people want to spend even $10, because the people who need to know this information are largely the people who don't want to spend money to find it out. So, of course, I can't do any small projects. So I decided that what the book needed to include was the first ever attempt to list every single legal place to camp along the North Country Trail, which legal camping is a monumental issue. The trail is managed by over 150, I think it's over 160 now, different landowners along the trail, because it's organized differently from the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest, and the Continental Divide, which of course are nicknamed the Big Three. So people want to know, well, why can't I just go camp and throw down my tent wherever I am? It's a national trail, right? And we've actually had that happen with hikers telling that to the police and then finding out rudely that that was not the case. They could not do that. And we've also had much the worst situation, which is the trail has gained permission to cross a section of private property, but then those property owners can set the rules from for what activities can happen on their land. I mean, some places might set up a campsite, and some places just want hikers to stay on the trail and not stray from it at all. Some places might set up a picnic area, but they don't want overnight camping. And so who has a list of what all those rules are, okay? And who many hikers that are going out to hike the whole trail are there's a whole group of serious hikers who are trying to hike all 11 national scenic trails, which is a crazy number of miles. I don't even know what it is. It would be like 10,000, 15,000. It would be close. It's got to be like 20,000 miles worth of trails. And so they just want to hike the miles. They don't want to pay attention to all these rules, and they don't even think about the fact that there could be trails with strange rules like that, because everybody's most familiar with the Appalachian Trail, and the Appalachian Trail Conservancy pretty much owns all the land along the trail, and you can just camp pretty much wherever you want. I mean, there's a few exceptions, but that's the norm. So because that's the most widely known and popular hiking trail in the US, and I say popular because they don't all finish, but there are over 2,000 people who start that trail every single year with the intention when they leave on their hike to finish the whole thing. So those are the rules everybody knows, and they think that those same rules are going to apply to every single national scenic trail. So the first 100 pages give all the reasons why our trail is organized differently, gives an overview of the kinds of environmental conditions and some of the history and some interesting things that you might see in each state that are unique to the state, without going into a lot of detail. Gives you resources for how to find out more information. The primary reason the book is subtitled Not Quite a Guide is because a true guide to a trail includes all kinds of stuff: water sources, parking, the kinds of treadway, all of that kind of thing. And to put all of that detail into one volume for a 4,800 mile trail isn't even reasonable. It would have to be done state by state. So that's how this book evolved. It took me about a year to write it, and it came out in August of 2023. So not 2 years ago. No, August of 2024. Yeah, about a year ago. And here we are, and thank you for the award. I really don't know who nominated it. So I'm kind of tickled about that. So that's, I guess, the speech about the book, and I would love to answer questions about the trail, the book, anything.
Great. Well, thank you. Yeah, that's very interesting information that you gave us already from, I'm not a hiker, so yeah, I didn't know about the rules and such. So I think that's a really good point that you made. So we've got a lot of people on the chat tonight. Would anybody like to ask some questions? Go ahead, Mary Frances. I see your hand. We'll start with you.
Don't forget to unmute.
Oh, you got to unmute there, Mary.
While she's figuring that out, I saw a question go by, what's in the other 300 pages? That is the listing of every legal place to stay along the trail that I could find out. And when I say along the trail, it's pretty much within a mile of the trail, because long distance hikers, unless they are picking up a package at a post office or something, or some special reason, they're not going to walk more than a mile off the trail for a place to stay at night. So go ahead, Mary Frances.
Okay, I wondered, since I'm clear out in Montana, I'm not close to where you are, although I used to live in Michigan, but what states does this trail cover?
Okay, it's an 8-state trail. It goes, depending on which end you start at. I mean, if you live in North Dakota, they say the trail starts there, but that's the western terminus. So North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and in 2019, Vermont was added because the trail was originally planned to meet up with the Appalachian Trail, and then for a number of kind of dumb reasons, that wasn't accepted, and so it ended at the New York State Vermont border for a number of years. But in 2019, Congress revised that, and we now connect with the Appalachian Trail in Vermont. So 8 states. So you're actually only one state beyond us.
That's true. Yeah. But yeah, I'm over 600 miles west of the North Dakota border, though.
Yeah, it's a big state.
Montana's a big state.
Yeah.
But yeah. So where in North Dakota does it start?
Okay,
Do you
the
know?
western terminus is at Lake Sakakawea, and
Okay.
everybody says, why does the trail just end in the middle of North Dakota? And the reason actually makes a lot of sense. It connects with the Lewis and Clark Trail, which is not a national scenic trail, it's a national historic trail. But
Right.
pardon me?
Go ahead.
When Congress was authorizing these various trails, right up until just a few months before the authorization was finalized, which was in 1980, there was a big debate still going on as to whether the Lewis and Clark Trail was going to be a National Historic Trail or a National Scenic Trail. And it ended up being a National Historic Trail. So the terminus is at the junction with the Lewis and Clark Trail. So a tiny bit of explanation about the two kinds of trails. National scenic trails are the kinds of trails that you and I would think of when we think of trails. You can hike them, you can put your feet on them, sometimes bicycles, the Arizona Trail, the Continental Divide Trail allows other uses as well. But they're primarily hiking trails. And National Historic Trails are collections of locations that are centered on a particular theme. And the idea is that you would probably drive from one location to the next to learn about those things, such as Lewis and Clark and the Trail of Tears, Camino Royale. They're historic transportation routes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. Yeah, I have actually dragged my husband along quite a bit of the Lewis and Clark Trail.
Nice. I've been to the two termini of that, and a couple other places, including of
Mhm.
course, the North Country terminus at Lake Skakawea. Yeah.
We've camped at Lake Sakakawea. There's a state park there that's called Lewis and Clark State Park that we've camped at before. So I didn't realize it came that far west. So that's
Yes.
great.
Yes.
Thank you. Do we
Yeah,
have any
thank
other
you.
questions out in the audience?
I'll go. Tell us a little bit about the mental challenge of what does it take to like commit to 30 or 60 days of hiking? I mean, I've never done anything like that.
Okay. The North Country Trail is more physically challenging than a lot of people realize. There are people who really poo-poo it as just kind of a walk in the park. It does include some urban trails,
Put a new one in.
and some multi-use sections, but there are some pretty physically challenging sections. However, I would say the primary challenge of the North Country Trail is the mental challenge of doing 4,800 miles.
Mm.
So, for example, if you are a smart young thing and you can hike 25 miles a day on average, you can do it in about 10 months. There's actually a couple of people who have hiked more like 35 miles a day, which is, I don't know, I guess it's not nuts for them. I certainly couldn't do that anymore. I saw a question go by about how many miles a day I averaged, and on the recent hike, I was hoping for 15, but then since I ended up taking some time off, and this is actually a long answer. I had to wait until the snow in the UP melted to go back and do a section in the Trap Hills. So I knew I wasn't going to be able to finish until at least May, and it turned out to be June. So I just backed off on the number of miles I was hiking a day. So up until I went home for that break, I was actually really close to the 15 miles a day. And the overall average was 13.2 miles a day.
Hmm.
So back to the mental challenge. So a funny story from my first hike of the trail. When the trail was authorized, there was a guess made as to how many miles it was going to be, and that guess was 3,200 miles. So that was wildly wrong, even at the time. And so I started doing little sections each summer with a friend, and we hiked over 1,500 miles, and by then the trail had already expanded, so I still had 3,200 miles to go. That was a little bit shocking. But the reality of hiking this trail, I'd been out there 6 or 7 months, and I still had 2,000 miles to go, which is, the Appalachian Trail is under 2,500. It's just mind blowing. You've been out there what seems like forever, and you've still got months and months ahead of you. Most people aren't going to do 25 or more miles a day. And the ones that want to do that, that's fine. But I like, you could say that I just enjoying the fact that don't have to go as fast anymore because I'm old now, but I like having time to look at things a little more closely and not have to just keep moving for 12 or 13 hours a day hiking. So yeah, the mental challenge of realizing that you've been hiking forever and you still got thousands of miles to go is just kind of mind blowing.
How about supply drops? If I'm going across the UP, I mean, you can go 30, 40 miles.
I missed the first part of the question.
Supply drops, how does that
Oh,
work?
supplies. Okay, various people handle that different ways. The first time I did the trail, my best friend was a teacher, and so she was free in the summers, and we would go out each summer and do usually a 2-week hike. Toward the end, when I was trying to finish that, we stretched that into a 3 or 4 week hike at a time. So we would often arrange with someone who could bring us a supply box in the middle of the hike, or perhaps someone who lived near the trail, or at the time the Forest Service would hold boxes for people. I'm not sure that every ranger station will do that anymore, but we could usually find somebody to hold a supply box for us. We found that we did a lot of that with backpacking, and we could comfortably carry 5 or 6 days of food at a time, but not 2 weeks worth. So that's what we did then. On the recent hike, I had a totally different setup for most of it. I have a little tiny travel trailer, and most of the time I had a helper with me. So we would base camp the little trailer, and then that person would drop me off in the morning and pick me up at night. So I didn't have to worry much about resupply. Now, that being said, I backpacked about 400 miles of the trail. I did the Adirondacks and Vermont, and the Kekakabic and border route sections in Minnesota, and some in Michigan. Some of those areas don't lend themselves to being dropped off and picked up on a daily basis, because there's not road access in a lot of those places. So the resupply wasn't really a big problem for me on the recent hike. Now, I will say that in contrast to, the Appalachian Trail has developed this whole culture of the towns that are down off the trail, and they just cater to the hikers, and it's a big deal for them. So the North Country Trail, although we're getting a lot more hikers, certainly doesn't have the volume of a trail like the AT. But what we do have is a network of, I think it's 31 chapters along the length of the trail. And of course, you're probably familiar with the ones in the Upper Peninsula. There's Hiawatha Shore to Shore, which Bill is involved in. And then there's Superior Shoreline, and the Marquette area chapter, and the Peter Wolf chapter, and in the far west, the Nemikanaki chapter. And all of those chapters have people who are more than happy to help people to provide shuttle rides or bring supply boxes out to them. And some of the long distance hikers still mail themselves packages and go off trail to pick those up. So, there's ways around it.
Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, it's very impressive, what you're doing. I can't even imagine it. So,
Well,
You
see, that's the whole thing about this book. One of the most difficult things about doing a long hike on the North Country Trail is planning it. It's
okay.
very difficult to do a hike on this trail in the method that you saw in the movie Wild, for example, where she just threw on a backpack and went out to hike the Continental Divide Trail. Because you don't have that obviously visible resource network, and you can't hike wherever you want. So what I'm hoping that this book does is to help people who want to do long hikes on the trail, to help them plan it. And I like doing all that planning, but a lot of people don't.
Mm. What exactly does the planning entail? Like, it's just like figuring out the food, figuring out.
Well, at the very least, you if you're going to do a long hike, you've got to figure out approximately how many miles a day you're going to hike and how where you're going to need either food pickups or access to a store that's large enough to carry things that you might need. Now, I mean, there are people who will resupply at convenience stores. I have a friend who basically hiked the Continental Divide Trail on Doritos. I'm not really willing to do something like that, but
Wow.
and as you folks in the UP know, there are a number of stores in little towns along the trail that aren't even open in the winter, right? So you know, and planning for the seasons is a big part of planning a hike on the North Country Trail, because unless you can hike 25 plus miles per day, average that much, you are going to have to deal with winter, because you've got North Dakota, you've got Upper Minnesota, you've got the UP of Michigan, and then you've got all of Upper New York and Vermont. And you cannot, unless you can do the whole trail in 10 months, you can't avoid winter somewhere.
Mhm.
Wow.
I have another question.
Okay, go ahead, Mary.
Well, my husband wants to know, when you were backpacking, how many pounds was your backpack?
Well, when I was
He's
younger,
the backpacker.
yeah, when I was younger, I could carry 42 or 43, but now I'm down to about 25. So
Okay.
yeah, and I just saw a question go by about
Yes, I
the
can
ice.
get that question for you. The question is, oh, where did it go? Hold on, I'm getting it. What's the best sort of camping spot along the trail? What makes for an ideal campsite?
Okay, well, my ideal campsite, which is not everyone's, is that it be fairly secluded, have a level place for a tent and water access. A lot of people like the shelters, the Adirondack style shelters, which of course are huge in the east. They're okay. I'd rather be in my tent. Keeps out the bugs. I don't even, and I don't like big public campsites. I've had very few bad experiences along the trail, but almost all of them have been in areas where we had to interact with other people. And so for me, it's secluded level. Ideally, if you're dispersed camping, which is allowed in a number of places, you're supposed to be 200 feet off the trail. Now, not every established campsite is that far off the trail, and I wish it was, because I kind of like to be private. But, you know, there are people who they want a campground with a shower and running water and amenities, and that's okay. They're not going to find them everywhere along the trail, and I'm not going to find my little secluded level space everywhere along the trail. So, but what I discovered when I wrote this book was it's been long considered that you could not really hike this trail and camp legally, and make a through hike out of it. And with a couple of exceptions, a couple of gaps in the mileages where there's nothing, you pretty much can now. There's not like a ton of choices in some of the areas, but you can almost hike this whole trail with about 15 miles a day and camp legally everywhere.
Okay, we're getting some more questions in. This one's from Michelle. She asks, did you backpack in winter weather and what were the challenges?
Well, I have backpacked in the winter, mostly on my first hike of the trail, which was a section hike over a number of years. I considered it on this most recent hike, but the truth is my gear is 3-season gear, and I didn't want to spend the money to upgrade for an experience that was going to be I considered backpacking through the Trap Hills. That was the section I had to put off and come back and finish in June. And I had a friend who was willing to backpack it with me, but if we had gotten in trouble, it would have involved probably a helicopter rescue, and I didn't have 4-season gear, and it just didn't seem smart. So we didn't do that. But I have done some winter backpacking, which is kind of how I knew I didn't have the right equipment for it. Okay.
Mhm. Okay.
You can solve most of these kinds of backpacking problems with money.
Mm-hmm.
I have a $300 sleeping bag. To upgrade my sleeping bag to something that would be acceptable for winter, you up the price to about $600.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Lots more. I don't know. People are shy tonight. They're typing in the questions.
Oh,
So,
good. Yeah, I can't see.
Roxana asks or says, I'm starting to plan limited section hiking in each of the 8 NCT states. Have you addressed legal parking in your book?
Hi, Roxana.
Hey, Joan.
Yeah, no, I have not. Parking is one of the things that would just be nuts to try to cover in a book. There are this is a good time to mention the interactive map on the North Country Trail website, northcountrytrail.org, and click on maps and then online map. And all the time, Matt is adding more information like that about parking and things like that. So if you click on the P, a little box will open up that will tell you more about what you want to know. It's not going to tell you everything. It may not tell you if overnight parking is legal, but almost without exception, the local chapter can give you that information, that detailed information.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
figure I'll just have to go out and work my magic too, do my stop
Yeah.
talking with farmers
Yeah.
along the way. So the other question I have for you, since I'm almost done with Ohio, you know that, I'm working on the extra miles outside of the Buckeye Trail.
Good.
So what did you hit the most iconic places to see in each of the 8 states?
What are the most iconic places?
Yeah, are those in the book somewhere?
Yeah. Well, no, they're not. There's a few things in the book like that. I have made a list. I thought it was going to be 100 things you shouldn't miss along the North Country Trail, but I'm up to about 130. So I don't know. There might be another book.
That sounds good. That sounds really good. So I look forward to it. I am going to buy this book too.
Oh, good.
You know that. And I don't know. I'm now to the point that I think 9 miles is my day for the day, depending upon the terrain. It just seems that's where my body says I'm done for the day.
That's fine. There's a guy in Michigan who's hiking. I don't know if he has health issues or what, but he hikes 3 to 4 miles a day, but he does it like almost every day, and
That's awesome.
he's getting it done.
That's cool.
Mm.
So looking forward to it.
There's a 90-something-year-old guy that's hiking the Superior Hiking Trail with his grandson, and he does like 5 miles a day, but his hope is to be the oldest person to hike the whole Superior Hiking Trail.
There you go. That'd be good.
We had one hand up, so go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's Bob.
Hi, Bob.
There's a lot of great details in the book, and I think a lot of the questions that are being asked are answered in the book. But I'm just wondering about the shelf life and something, things are always changing. So how do you plan to maintain this or update it?
Yeah, it goes out of date about every 10 minutes.
Mm.
And that's not much of an exaggeration because this trail is still evolving. There are miles that are coming off road all the time. What I have done in the book, right near the beginning, I think it's on the copyright page. It's right across from the copyright. There is a website, and I am trying to I am not updating every change in the route. That's right now that I'm not updating the route, but I am adding any campsites, additional campsites that we learn of, and that sort of thing, and giving text for what page of the book they go on and how it changes mileages between the locations. So for right now, that's what I'm doing, and I don't really have a schedule for how often the entire book will need to be revised. That's the best I can tell you right now.
Thank you.
Good question. We've got another one that came in on the chat. It's from Beth. She asked, do you use Far Out or any other app while hiking?
Yes. There are two hiking apps that the North Country Trail Association supplies official maps to, in addition to that interactive map on their website that I mentioned. But phone apps that you can take out into the field and that you don't need cell service in order to locate yourself and use the app out in the woods. And those are Far Out and Avenza. So Avenza was the first one that the association worked with, and just a couple of years ago, they have added Far Out to that collection of apps. So if you, for example, if you like all trails, you're going to find a lot of North Country Trail maps on there. However, if you recall, a few minutes ago, I said the trail is changing about every 10 minutes. All of those trails on All Trails are crowdsourced, and so those might not be accurate. Avenza and Far Out get the official maps from the North Country Trail Association. Those are updated twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall. Avenza is free. Far Out, the app is free, but you have to pay for the maps. And that said, there are three sections of this trail that are concurrent with other well-established trails, and those are the Superior Hiking Trail in Minnesota, the Buckeye Trail in Ohio, and the Finger Lakes Trail in New York, where we have significant overlap with those trails. And those groups, they each have their own nonprofit organization, do use their maps to make money. So you cannot get the free Avenza maps for those sections. However, you can buy those maps for Avenza. Personally, I like Avenza. It's like, which is better, Mac or PC? It's how your brain works. I'm in love with Avenza. Some people are in love with Far Out, whatever. They're both good. Avenza, except for those three sections that I just mentioned, all the Avenza maps for the North Country Trail are free. And they're
Okay.
almost all accurate, which could lead into something that I could talk about that I just did with Bill up there, who's grinning.
Mhm. One good question left here I can see on the Zoom is that, or on the chat, Victor asks, Could you tell us 6 things that most people forget to bring if they're going on a long hike?
I don't know. Uh, well, a lot of people don't arrange this is not something you forget to bring unless it comes in the head under the heading of your brains. They do not make a plan that they give someone else the information that they should be out of the woods by such and such a date. And for example, if I might tell my husband I will be back, I plan to be out of the woods by noon on whatever, July, whatever it is, 11th. It's the 10th today. And if you do not hear from me by noon on June 11th, or on June 12th, if I were going to be in the woods 2 weeks, I would give myself a whole day. So if I'm saying if I'm 24 hours late, something is wrong, call the authorities. So, and if it's a shorter hike, if I'm out for like 2 or 3 days, I might just give myself a 5 or 6 hour window. So that would be one thing.
Okay.
I don't know. What do people forget? Head nets in the certain times of the summer.
Backup batteries for the phone?
Well, maybe. Yeah, you've got to have that's one thing about using the electronic apps. You really can keep yourself from getting lost. I saw a comment go by about somebody being saved by Far Out a number of times, and they're wonderful. But you've got to keep your phone operational. You know, you need to not lose it and drop it in the creek and keep it charged. So you may need to accept the fact that you've got to carry the weight of a little power pack or something.
Okay.
So those would be a few things. I don't know, extra glasses, your medicine. Here's one that it doesn't have to be something large, but I have learned that if you need a pair of pliers, there's absolutely nothing you can substitute for it. So I have a little tiny Leatherman that has a pair of pliers on it. And occasionally, you know, if you've got a tent pole go bad or something, you just have to have a pair of pliers for some things. So I don't know
Okay.
if I made it to 6. I made it to a
That's
few.
that's good. I see Michelle has her hand up. So Michelle, do you have a question you want to ask? You
Yeah.
could unmute yourself.
Yep. You should hear me now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Joan, do you think of yourself as a nature writer? And also, how did you research all those campsites? I mean, obviously you didn't stay at all of them.
Yeah, Victor says you can always pull a tooth with pliers. Okay, so how did I research all those campsites? Oh, am I a nature writer? Well, I'm definitely a writer. Okay, I have I think it's up to 17 books now. I write murder mysteries and mysteries for kids, and I have 3 books about the North Country Trail. My other 2 are stories from the first hike of the trail that I did, which are I think they're entertaining. One of them actually won an award as well from Independent Books, IPPY, whatever that stands for. And I write columns about quiet outdoor recreation for 2 newspapers and a little bit of freelancing. So I'm definitely an outdoor writer. I belong to Michigan Outdoor Writers Association, and that includes some nature stuff. Botany is my secondary hobby after hiking. So there's that. And okay, research. Most of this information is available from other places, but as I said, most people don't like the huge project of planning a long distance hike. So I got the information from maps and chapter information and chapter websites and HipCamp and Google Maps that has motels and stuff like that on it. And it was just a matter of compiling all of that into one hopefully consistent and usable format from either direction, which is another challenge. Many guides are fine if you're going in one direction, but if you try to go the other direction, they're awful. So, you know, I just sat down and did it.
Oh, here's comes a question. Any notable things to be aware of on the Wisconsin segment?
Wisconsin is one of the short states. It's got about 230 miles. And yes, the big news in Wisconsin is that just in the last few years, they got a lot of miles moved in eastern Wisconsin that are through some absolutely gorgeous sections of forest. They go past some old iron mines, even a gold mine, and the big and most recent news in Wisconsin is it took like about 4 years before it happened, but the DNR has built a bridge across the Tyler Forks River that Bill up there in the, yeah, Bill's nodding. Okay, Bill Curtis was with me when I hiked that on the big hike, and we waded up to our hips through that. And occasionally it got even deeper. We got lucky that it was only that deep the day we went across. And there is now a brand new, and I mean like, I think it opened 2 weeks ago, high and professionally built bridge across that. So that's pretty cool.
Okay. I had a quick question about wildlife encounters. Have you had some scares or anything with animals?
Well, nothing really scary.
Okay.
Seen a few bears. I've seen a few moose, several in Minnesota, mostly from a distance. The closest moose encounters have been in the Adirondacks in New York. And moose are actually more dangerous than bears, than black bears. But both of those were not problematic at all. I was really close to a moose both of those times, and we both just stopped and I talked to it and it waited for it to walk away. So it was fine.
Good.
So
That's good.
yeah, if I assume this is supposed to end at 8, is that correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So if there's a couple of minutes, I would just brag a little bit about what Bill and I did in the last couple of weeks.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Tell us what you did.
Yeah. Okay. So Bill Curtis and I are just a week ago back from the Adirondacks, where this whole trail map that you can get for free is there and available primarily from volunteers and some staff, but primarily volunteers going out and taking GPS tracks of the trail. And we have not had a route through the Adirondacks all that long, and nobody had tracks of those trails, even the trails that were official New York State trails. And also, in order to help get money to maintain these trails, you need to know what's out there, shelters and bridges and puncheon and stonework, all that kind of stuff. So Bill and I went to the Adirondacks, and there are currently about 90 miles of trail in the Adirondacks that are off-road. It eventually will be more, but right now that's what we have. And we hiked those miles and took GPS tracks of them and did a full structure inventory with pictures and conditions and all of that. And tomorrow we are going to meet with Matt Robotham of the Trail Association to start getting that into the association's database. And so there will probably in the update this fall, there will be accurate maps of the trail through the Adirondacks. So that's like a dream come true for me to be part of that. And I kind of didn't think I should do that alone, and now that we've done it, it would have been, to try to do that job alone would have been insane. And Bill agreed to go with me. We had a great time and we got it done.
A comment, one you used on X to gather data, and the other is Diane Nelson is on the line too.
Okay, we used 3 different apps so that we would have 3 different tracks that we will take. We actually have already sent them to Matt, but we will go over them with him tomorrow. We used Onyx, we used Avenza, and we used an Apple Watch. So if you have, the more tracks you have from different apps, which may pick up different satellites, whatever, even if you go out with the same app, you're going to get some variation from time to time. So having 3 tracks from each section of trail will allow him to get kind of an average of them, and the more tracks you get, the more accurate the line on the map is.
Wow. Well, good for you guys. That's great. Very exciting. I see Michelle wrote, were you planning on writing about your hiking the first time you hiked it? If so, what was your mindset as
there are
prepared to write?
2, I'm sorry. There are 2 books that cover that entire hike with stories. I don't have them with me beside me, but they're called North Country Cache, CACHE, and North Country Quest. All of these books are available from me. That would allow me to sign them for you. That would make me happy. How to Hike is available on Amazon, or you can order it from any bookstore. Quest, the only place you can get that is from me.
Okay. So when I send, in a few days or so, we'll have the recording of this Zoom available. Is it okay that I share your email with that recording so people could write you if they wanted autographed copies?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, and if you buy it directly from me, I'll give you a little discount. It's still going to cost you about the same as it would from a bookstore or Amazon, because I am charging for postage, but I'm not gouging you on the postage. So
Sounds good.
yeah.
That sounds good. Yeah. Any other final comments or questions or things you'd like to talk to Joan about?
I had one quick question.
Sure.
So I'd love to know how the trail changed from your first hike and your most recent hike.
Oh my goodness. Well, the biggest thing is the number of miles that have come off-road. When I started the first hike in 1991, I didn't think I didn't have any plans to do the whole thing, but that's when I took my first hike on the North Country Trail. And at the time, as I said, the estimated mileage was much lower. There were about 1,500 of those miles that were off-road at the time. And now the estimate for the trail, well, it's the actual number of miles is over 4,800. By the time it's all off-road, it'll probably be a 5,000 mile trail. And we are down to only 1,500 that are on road. So it's just flip-flopped, which was the primary reason I wanted to do it again. There were so many pieces that had come off-road since the first time that I hiked it. And I love, one of the reasons the primary reason that I got involved in the North Country Trail instead of some other trail is that it was a young trail with a big dream, and I felt like I could make a difference. I've been a member of the association since 1995, and things like what Bill and I just did, that's definitely making a difference. I love it.
Great. Yeah. Anybody else before we sign off here tonight with Joan?
This is Michelle.
Oh, there's
Oh.
Michelle.
Joan, I'm interested in hearing about your experience as a writer and a hiker. It's like, what kind of mindset do you have when you're hiking to be able to write about it later?
So on the two books about the first hike, I started trying to journal at night, and that turned out to be ridiculous. I was too tired. So very early on, this was of course before you could do everything on your phone. I bought a little tiny tape recorder and recorded stuff, which turned out to be great because it allowed us to include a lot of the little jokes that happen all day long that later you're going, what did you say that was so funny? You know, we couldn't remember. So having the little recorder allowed us to get some of that down and saved. So a lot of those jokes got into the books. And so then that was what I did on the first hike. Now the second hike, one of my primary goals was to try to get people excited about the North Country Trail, because I was forever hearing these comments like, well, there's nothing to see on the North Country Trail, which is just wrong. So I blogged, and you can, the blog is My Quality Day. Just look that blog up on Google, and from December of 2021 to June of 2023, I blogged. When I was backpacking, I had to catch those posts up later, but there is a blog for every single day that I hiked, that will tell you cool things that I saw, neat things that happened, people that helped me, all of that. So you can read about all that stuff from the second hike for free.
Wow, pretty neat. Okay. Well, it's very inspiring talking to you, Joan. I mean, it's quite a interesting thing that you've done that not a lot of people have done. And it sounds like you're doing even more work in that field. So what's your next adventure? What's the next thing you want to do?
Well, so this year the Trail Association is not having an annual conference, but it was going to be in North Dakota. So the North Dakota chapters have put together something they're calling a Hike Fest, which is pretty much going to be like the annual conference, but without as many speakers. And so I'm headed for North Dakota in August.
Okay.
As
Good.
are Bill and Bob. And I don't know, Roxanne, are you going to North Dakota?
Unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm planning quite a bit of hiking in August.
Okay,
So, and I'll be going to BT Trail Fest in September.
cool.
So, but
So yeah,
yeah,
there may be other people who have joined that I know, but I can only see a few people up there at the top. So
I will be on the NCT in August, though.
nice.
Lots.
There are a much larger number of people who are out there trying to hike long distances in sections than there used to be, which is awesome.
Yeah. Wow, you certainly opened up my mind to something I really knew nothing about. So now I'll have to, when that book comes in, I'm going to have to read those 100 pages for sure and take a look at the rest and see all the things that you've done.
Thank you. And if
Yes.
you want stories, look for North Country Cache and North Country Quest. Those are stories from the first hike. Oh, hi Beth.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming on, and we will see you next month for Limpy's Adult Lexicon by Joseph Haywood. So have a good evening. Thank you, Joan, and take care, everybody.
You've been watching the UP Notable Books Club, brought to you by the Upper Peninsula Publisher and Authors Association. To join or for more information, please visit us at www.upa.org or www.upnotable.com.